So I've got noise coming from the front door. Oh, see how I've got the army workforce there. I say army because see how they're right outside my front door there. See, they're like the army of the country. They're right outside the front door, see, making all that kind of low-level negative sound coming right through the house, vibrating. It vibrates through the house, but the mobile doesn't pick it up. It's unacceptable, really, but of course this is just daily life for what some people call an isolated human being in the city of Sydney, because they need the human energy, and that's how you know that they're a different species. Otherwise, you would wonder what in the... Yes, this is definitely like not a natural, normal, healthy human earth. Patrol car going past, they're all connected. In other words, the patrol car that goes past at the same time as the workmen are apparently unloading something, but when they do everything they have to make a noise. Even when the vehicles are parking, trucks and things all over the city now have to make beeping noises, whereas in the old days, or in a normal reality, you don't have vehicles making a noise or having bright flashing headlights all over them, and also having excessively bright head and tail lights that are literally human eye contact is blinding, like it's actually hypnotizing when you realize that they are strategically placed always into your line of sight. So that means it's a sight and sound human mind control matrix. Because my mind is controlled by what I see and hear, because that's my reality. That's the real world. And if the androids take that over with excessive sight and excessive sound in a kind of blinding negative manner with the lights, they disorientate you, because it's what they call headlight gaslighting. That means that it's trying to make you disorientated, out of balance and mad by gaslighting you with excessively bright lights. Because the human eye is not meant to take in an artificial bright light or negative sound reality. Human beings are meant to take in soft nature. And this is not nature. Bright clothes too. They always have to have orange as the colour of Leichhardt. Everyone wears the bright orange or the bright green jackets. They're actually very bright colours. This was pointed out by a targeted human individual on, on a unknown, hidden channel, because basically all human beings' content will be hidden and suppressed. It would actually be impressive if it was only like, say, once every 6 months or once a year when you had a construction, but when it's daily, it becomes mentally disturbing. That's the problem with it. So this being surrounded by these beings every minute of the day, everywhere you go, is the problem. It's not if it was just occasionally. You might even find it unusual, even entertaining. It's a bit like if you occasionally see a jet go past, you might look at it and say, oh wow, but when they're following you and tracking you and swooping down on you almost, and always coming into your line of sight, but they're very good actors too. They stage all these productions. They're like army operatives that are very physically agile, but they're also schooled at like stage production or acting, in other words. So they're like set producers on a set stage play, and that stage play is the entire suburb if you're a human being, because these are a different species that need the human energy. And they also need to mimic and copy and be an imitation real human being in order to survive in this human reality, because they're also here to avoid extinction. The powers that be, and even the original God, if you want to take it to a God level, you can take it whichever level you want. Whichever way you look at it, you will still be realising the true artificial reality, you see, which is the main thing, I think. But it would be probably reasonable to assume, even if you're a skeptical, in the dark human being, or like I used to be, that you do have power players of Earth. You do have powerful human beings. You do have your world stage players, your world stage, powerful people in any capacity, whether it be through influence or direct force or real power. That means where you control a whole country, And you might say, well, you choose to have these powerful people. But really, it's a matrix, so it's all about mind control. So it's like when I choose a partner or a friend or to talk to someone, I assume they're human when they're not, you see. So yes, you might choose things, but you don't really know the species or the type of human that you're choosing. You can't tell the difference between a psychopath and a normal human being. Everyone knows that. It's only when they expose very negative actions or get caught out that these things come to light. But most psychopaths are not serial killers. They do kill, but they don't kill directly. It's always indirect, and that's the perfect crime, as they say, if you can do something and be so far removed from it that you're not, attached to it. And that's how this system works, because it's a slow killing of the human spirit, and that also kills. If you don't feel good, if you feel depressed and you feel suppressed, and you're surrounded by negative forces, that also destroys your body, and it destroys your reality, because you don't have a reality, you have their reality. I have the android's reality around me every day. Just like when I open this door, I don't open it up to a quiet dead-end street like it is, I open it up to this. It's not... patrol car that went down is connected to the orange truck. They're all... This patroller coming up is definitely a patroller who will go into the place directly opposite me. That's an on-foot patroller, that's a patrol car, and these are all surveillance, patrolling, controlling vehicles. It should be a quiet dead-end street. That's what it should be, but it's not. But anyway, see, they're actually very impressive army tanks, really, disguised as work vehicles. That's how this reality works, and it's very, very clever. The God entity and the powers that be that control Earth are very, very, very intelligent. But of course, they spend all their time studying and associating with real humans, so they know exactly how to control me over a lifetime. And if you wake up to the reality of the different nature of beings around you, then they send this army workforce in around you disguised as a real workforce. And that's really all I can say, because they're using sight and sound to suppress and control my emotions daily, because I'm always agitated. I'm never comfortable. I don't know what's going to happen next. I'm always surrounded by them, as though I have to be restrained when I'm just going outside or just trying to watch a program on the screen. And even the screen is total mind control, because it's all computer systems and all screens are androgyne beings controlling the whole network. Even though it looks as though they're random individual human beings, but they're not. Okay, so you might say, well, aren't I a random, natural, normal human being? Well, no, I'm not. But I am not an android, but I am an android in the sense that I'm totally transhuman, connected to their computer system. But that's not a decision that I make. Mind you, you could say when I turn it on, I make the decision to connect to it, which is actually true. But I'm actually connected to it 24/7 by the beings around me through the transhuman mind implementation program that really is advanced artificial intelligence that connects to my brain, which connects me to not just this screen, but also to all this android reality around me. In other words, I'm connected to these beings because they're surveilling me all the time, right outside the front door. See what I'm saying? I know most people will say, no, you're exaggerating the reality that you just happen to always be surrounded by a workforce or by a lot of negative sound 24/7. Well, okay, if you think that's real, if you think that on a small dead-end street for the last 7.5 years straight, most days you have a work program around you everywhere you go. And how come I'm surrounded by massive amounts of vehicles every day when they're supposed to be on the underground Sydney City tunnel system, which was built, you know, over the last number of years to take all the traffic off the very roads where I walk? But it's only where I walk that there is this excessive traffic system where it's bumper to bumper, not just in peak hour like it should be, but 24 hours, even late of a night. And this is only where I go. And anyone will tell you that too. Even the androids will say, yes, it's only up on this particular road. But then if I go to the next suburb, which I've tried, that same traffic system follows me. But, you know, it's only around human beings. This is how this matrix gets away with basically eliminating human beings slowly and apparently normally over time, I think. But whichever way you look at it, it keeps you under their power and their control, because you're always in low frequency and vibration. In other words, you're always on their technical grid, what they call their technical grid, or their technical wavelength. Many more advanced androgyne demigods have expressed this better than me, unfortunately. The truth will be told by the deceivers. This is the end game, unfortunately. They mimic and copy being real human beings. So, sadly, for humanity, it's still deception even when you find out the reality. But yes, there is this frequency vibration thing, or a wavelength. In other words, the demigods, one great demigod, explained this to me on a video, you know, like many years ago. In other words, like when I first became surrounded by these beings and they came down on me and exposed their reality to try to control me, but hoping that I wouldn't understand what was happening, that I would just go out of my mind, because you know, when your whole world changes almost overnight, when they come out of the woodwork, as soon as I open the door, it makes a noise and moves. That's all artificial intelligence. It's impressive, right? I've seen many impressive mechanical manoeuvres around the neighbourhood, but unfortunately, because it's loud and suppressive and destructive, you know, you can be impressed by the art of war, as they say, but if you're in amongst it, it's not like reading about it or watching a movie. And I've never liked war movies, so this is, you wonder how you keep going. And you're only keeping going by the, you know, skin of your teeth, as they say. See how that van is right in front of me, like in my line of sight, like they literally are showing their power. And yes, they come in all different denominations, all different types of things, because they all have the one mind, but they use cloned human bodies from all over the earth, you know. That's what makes it, but you know, there's a lot more to it than that. Like, there's a lot of, it's really master deception at personal level, right through to this, you know, city matrix level. I'm not going to go out there, but I should really just stop here, but I think you can see it through the front door. They're pulling out now, but even when they're pulling out for the day, they still have to put up a great big stage flag. Look at that. They're literally swarming over the whole street, like you have a dozen of them there, even though they're not going to come out on a mobile. So they literally take up the whole small, very small, not very long dead-end street here where I live, which should be quiet, because it's off from the main street of Lyco, but it's not, as you can see. And an android is going right into the place opposite at the same time. I can see an orange jacket going in, which shows you that they occupy every house, every building, which I know, because when you walk just a block, they go in and out of every house, even low. None of them actually reside in there. They couldn't, and they don't. They have access to the whole suburb. It's a total artificial area, which is unbelievable to some people, but it is. It's all artificial. It's all set up and staged, and it's all set up and staged around little humans, and that's the deception, because they look like the big humans, and they look like, why would an unknown, insignificant human being be surrounded by this patrol control force? And the answer to that is quite simply because you are looking at different species, different types of beings in a human body. That's the real truth behind it. And they don't want the higher human vibration. They don't want a happy frequency or vibration, because it stops this technical low frequency, low vibrational grid from keeping going. They're about technology, even though they pretend to be about a natural green earth. they're actually, that's the camouflage of the Matrix, as they call it. That's the camouflage. The beings are the camouflage, so they pretend to be human, or as one description of it is, they pretend to be you, and they make out that you are them. So in other words, if you are like a normal natural human that wants to be happy and wants to have a higher frequency and vibration, or operate in the life instinct, they pretend that you are one of them, that you're really an android operating in the death instinct. And they pretend to be operating like a real human in the life instinct. And yes, I'm not allowed to talk to the dog there because, you know, I heard the owner actually say, oh, she's trying to take my dogs from me. Because, you know, that they see, you know, I saw a big police vehicle come a night or two ago, a huge flashing lights all over it, and went in next door. So they assume that I, you know, because I heard him say on the phone, oh, the neighbour wants to take the dogs. Well, yes, maybe I do think that they were out in the rain a bit over the thing, but I'm not going to go to the authorities about those things, because then the dogs would only end up at the pound or at the animal shelters, where they will be just killed anyway, because all this Matrix is about eliminating life. So even in a less good environment where they don't have the facilities or the physical capability, like myself for that matter, to provide the dogs with the best accommodation, it's still better than being you know, killed at the animal places, which actually are supposed to be the opposite. But they end up with, they create situations where a lot of animals end up there, and they say that it's kind and humane to kill the animals. And that's just a matter of opinion. But is it opinion, or is it just what I've been brainwashed to believe? Of course it is. And also those organisations and the powers that be have unlimited resources. They could easily look after many animals. They could easily create a society in a world where the animals have more freedom too, for that matter. Most human beings don't realise that they actually contribute, like myself, to limiting animals' lives, just as you limit humans' lives. Because that's just the reality of what you think is normal. So you're not wrong when you're doing wrong sometimes, but you still are, but you don't actually consciously think you're wrong, because if everyone else is doing it, and if society tells you something is correct, it's only natural that you're going to think that that's, it's like the law of the land. It's like the authorities. You think they must be there for you, on your side. They must be there to protect you. But they're really there to protect the artificial matrix. And they're not about protecting or helping human beings. They're about suppressing human beings, limiting human beings, and keeping you in their negative artificial matrix, which is all set up, contrived, and about taking my energy, taking my resources, taking my mind, taking my thoughts, taking any creative ideas, taking anything that is human about me as their own, so that they are you, and then you're seen as them. So you're seen as something less or something negative, while they're seen as the positive, real human beings. Even though, if you really looked at it clearly, you would see that they're really artificial, even the powers that be. Most people should be able to see that many of your earth power performers are android beings. But for some reason, because they talk the human talk and give you a human story and pretend that they're giving you human information, you fall for their false, as they say, the false persona. Because that's why they say that this world is a world of where most beings are malignant narcissists hiding behind masks, the false human mask. And these ones here are pulling out, but they're making a grand, not entrance, but a grand finale or a grand departure. Glad they're pulling out. There's a hell of a lot of dreadful dust around with all this construction too. You know, I never stop coughing half the time. So there's actual physical downside to all this. Oh, they've gone silent. They've gone silent because they want to hear me talking, but I'm going to go silent too. They like the idea of, as they've got 3 monkeys stuck around everywhere I go, and I didn't even know what that meant until the last couple of years when someone pointed it out. The 3 blind monkeys. They want me to be, and human beings to be, 3 blind monkeys. Hear no evil, see no evil, and speak no evil. Or in other words, hear no truth, see no truth, and speak no truth. Because for them, truth is evil, because it goes against their technical matrix, unfortunately. And if the matrix wasn't so controlling and about taking human energy, it wouldn't matter that it was artificial. Well, it's still not a benefit to a human being, because human beings really need to be creative and in touch with nature. They need to be in touch with life, in other words. It doesn't have to be even looking at scenery, but they must be connected to life. And most nature is a living thing, whereas like the garbage tin is, you know, a material thing. It's good, but it's not alive. And the deception is that a lot of human beings are actually not alive either. They're actually kind of dead. They move and they look and act like as though they're alive, but they're actually very, like I say, if you don't have any joy or any happiness or any human spirit in you, and you're all about control only, and you're paranoid about controlling everything around you, including the garbage tin, which is why they've moved it right in front of my door there. But basically they want to control me just like the garbage tin. They want to move you around and play with you like as though you're just a material object. But human beings are not just dead material objects, but these beings like a dead reality, and they like to control everything, and that's the whole problem. See, they like to control me like all the garbage tins that I have around and showing their presence. And I don't understand why that is, but it's just the difference of the nature of the beast, as they say, or the nature of the spirit that inhabits the human bodies, the human vessels, in this end time, I think. So, anyway, I think I'll close. They're pulling out now, hopefully. They're taking a little, it's you know, a little bit of a stage play, a little bit of a swan song. High-grade control system. They make out the humans are low-grade. Flashing many lights at me, but there are a few still flashing, but I'm conditioned to and sensitized to sound and light, so even the little miniature lights are gaslighting me, which means they're mind controlling and disorientating me, even not just the sound. It's funny how you can tell the androids because they have lights on everything, even in broad daylight, you know? Which is not natural, I wouldn't think. anyway, I need to fold up here. I need to fold up here. This is the end of it here. And, you know, it's the end of it here, so I'm gonna finish up the video. And I don't know what I've been showing here, but that's just, they've gone quiet now. Hopefully they'll clear out for the day, but of course, you know, I have to stay inside to avoid their matrix.